Because all these things, all this knowledge is fine, but the soul is not going to get benefited from just simply understanding about dharma, artha and kama and moksha. He needs to understand about the pancham purushartha, which is the fifth purushartha, which is how to attain the God. And that's why we have Shrimad Bhagavatam. And Shrimad Bhagavatam exclusively talks about pure devotional service. It doesn't talk about anything else.
Welcome to the oldest spiritual podcast, the Bhagavad Gita Podcast. Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita Podcast. I'm very excited today and honored to have Brajsundar Prabhu from Vrindavan here with us. He's resident of Vrindavan. For those who don't know, Vrindavan is the birthplace or the place where Lord Sri Krishna descended, was born. And because this Bhagavad Gita podcast, this is the place actually where everything started, where Krishna spent his time as a children pastimes, and then was leading slowly up to the topic of the Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhu, you're from Mumbai originally?
Yes.
And staying since when in Vrindavan?
2007.
2007, wow, so long. Long before I knew about Krishna consciousness. Nice. And you have 2 master degree and PhD. You're working now on Vedic philosophy?
Yes.
Yes. And Prabhu is also the founder of Bhagavat Mahavidyalaya, a wonderful institution where they share spiritual knowledge, the Vedas, Shastras all around the world. They have many students online and in persons. You traveled 200 countries, I think, already?
Yes, I've been traveling since last 2014.
2014.
10 years now.
Every year for some time? Or?
Yes, every year, 3 to 4 months I travel.
I think there's lots more to say, but I would ask you to
Thank you.
Introduce yourself and...
Yeah. You gave enough of introduction. Let's start. Let's start. So I'm also very happy and glad I follow you on Instagram and see your lectures, watch your lecture, and that's very inspiring. Thank you so much for doing this selfless service. This is a selfless task. Preaching is a selfless task. Encouraging others is a selfless task. So thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, tell me. How do you want us to proceed with this?
Yeah, because the topic is Bhagavad Gita, and now you're here and we are now in the moment in Simhachalam. It's a Vedic temple in South Germany, Bavarian Forest, where many devotees of the Lord come together to worship and chant and study the scripture. And at the moment, Prabhu is giving a Shrimad Bhagavatam overview. So it's a kind of Shrimad Bhagavatam retreat.
Yeah.
So, because the Bhagavad Gita is known all around the world, and there's so many interpretations and translations. And we study the Bhagavad Gita, of course, under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami, with the view of Bhakti. So, since you're so expert in Srimad Bhagavatam, and especially last week, you really helped us to go deeper even in the understanding. What is the Srimad Bhagavatam? Maybe you can connect the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam.
Definitely.
That we can understand what is the Gita and why is it called Gita as it is. Yeah, maybe we can start there.
Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, definitely they're connected. Even in Bhagavad Gita is a part of Mahabharata. And Bhagavad Gita is 18 chapters from Mahabharata. That is actually the Bhagavad Gita, and it is called as Song of the God. And in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a instructions which Krishna gives to Arjuna, that is Janma Karma Chame Divyam Eyam Yovati Tatvata Tektva Deham Punarjanma Naiti Mahameti Swarjuna. So therein Arjuna says, Krishna says to Arjuna that if you want to know my birth, if you try to know my janma, my birth, my activities, then you will not take birth in this world. I mean, you will taktva deham punarjanma, you will not come back to this material world. So, where are the birth and activities of the Lord mentioned? It's in the Bhagavatam. So that's how Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam are connected. And so, Bhagavad Gita just like Bhagavad, you said that Bhagavad Gita has so many commentaries. Yes, there are more than 800 commentaries.
800, oh.
Only in India.
I thought like 200, I mentioned always 300.
800 commentaries of Bhagavad Gita only in India. Out of which there are, should be around 4 or 5 very authentic and which you can rely on. And interestingly, the 4 of them are not, which are authentic, they're not connected to each other, but they will speak the same thing.
From different disciplic successions?
Yes, yes, 4 disciplic succession and the 4 Bhagavad Gitas. And they're not connected to each other, but if you read them, they'll speak the same thing. That is the beauty of authentic transcendental knowledge. So Bhagavad Gita is the teachings of the Lord, what He wants from us, all of us, and Bhagavatam is about Him, about His various incarnations. Like we know that Krishna comes as Lord Ramachandra, Krishna comes as Varaha, Vamanadev, and so many different incarnations He took. So if you see, Bhagavatam is also a kind of incarnation of the Lord. Krishna is, when He comes in the form of a book, it's Shrimand Bhagavatam. There in the world also there are so many religious books being worshipped, right? People worship Quran and Bible. So Bhagavad Gita is also worshipped. But Bhagavatam is Krishna himself in the form of a book. So Prati Shloke Prati Akshare Nana Arthakaya. And in Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, he says that Srimad Bhagavatam is like Krishna Anga. So Krishna's body is Srimad Bhagavatam.
Beautiful. But how is it, because you always hear that Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge, but Srimad Bhagavatam is, what is the Srimad Bhagavatam then?
I'll say that Bhagavad Gita and the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita is practically how it is applied in the life of the many devotees. That is in Srimad Bhagavatam. So the same philosophy of Bhagavad Gita is in the Bhagavatam, but with examples from the lives of various personalities like Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj. So in one sense, it's one and the same thing. So one is the instructions of the Lord, and one is about the Lord, His name, His fame. So Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, they are at the we can say that in fact Bhagavatam was compiled after Bhagavad Gita. When Vedavyas wrote Mahabharata, so after that Vedavyas, in the directions of Narad Muni, he compiled Bhagavatam. So in true sense, Bhagavatam is the essence of all the knowledge, and Bhagavatam is the essence of all the Vedic scriptures. So, but at the same time, Bhagavad Gita is also the essence of the scriptures, because it gives the most important teachings of the Lord in a very concise form. So it's like that.
And Bhagavad Gita, because we say that the Bhagavad Gita is directly spoken by the Lord. It's the only book. Sometimes I hear this phrase, but also in Bhagavatam, the Lord speaks.
Oh yeah.
Not all the time, actually.
So many places the Lord has spoken. So many. This is just one place where Lord has spoken to Arjuna, but in Bhagavatam there are at least 20, 25, 30 times He has spoken, and there are so many instructions about Him. So the Gita, like we have a Uddhav Gita in Bhagavatam in 11th canto. That is also Geet. Geet means Bhagavad Geet. Geet means song. And Bhagavat means Krishna. So the song of the God, that is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita. So same we have this whole, in Bhagavatam also there are so many Bhagavad Gita. The song of the God, there's so many of them. So Bhagavad Gita is very popular because it's in the Mahabharata, became very popular, but in Bhagavatam also there are so many Bhagavad Gita. So the explanation, the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita is expanded in Bhagavatam in many ways.
And you just mentioned Vyasadeva and compiled the Bhagavatam later. And just a few days ago, in class, you mentioned this point that he was not satisfied, and maybe you can tell the story because it's very beautiful to hear.
Yeah. So interestingly, when we say about a term called as Vedic scriptures, so Vedic scripture means it is written by Vedavyas. Otherwise, you cannot accept it as Vedic scriptures. Just before that, Ramayana was there, but after Ramayana, Whatever it is in the form of written form is in by Vedavyas. So Vedavyas was, he wrote so many literatures actually. He compiled 4 lakh verses.
Wow.
It's a vast journey. And, Vedavyasji, he first divided one Vedas into 4. The purpose was very clear that he wanted to help the humanity, general, general people to understand the Vedas. That was his purpose. That's why to simplify the work of the Vedas, he divided it into 4. And then further he divided into, he gave those four Vedas to his disciples and requested them to write commentaries on it, expand and preach and do everything. And he also wrote Upanishads and so many different other things Vedavyas wrote. He also wrote Vedanta Sutra, so many different things. But the fifth work, which was more highlighted and most important work, was the Mahabharata and the 18 Puranas. So 18 Puranas has 3 different divisions. One is a Sattvic Purana, a Rajasic Purana, Tamasic Puranas. And then when you say about Mahabharata, so he entrusted the Mahabharata and the Puranas responsibility to Romaharshan Sut. Romaharshan Sut was also his disciple, and then it was told that you can expand it further. So like that, the Mahabharata also came into being, the Puranas also came into being, the 4 Vedas were also there. What was the purpose? The purpose was to help humanity. And Sanatan Dharma does not talk about, you are this from this cult, you are from that cult, you're a Hindu or you're a Muslim, you're a Buddhist, or you're a this or you're that. It doesn't even talk that you're an Indian, you're an American, you're an European. This is even all this conception are not there in Sanatan Dharma.
True, yeah.
That is the beauty of Sanatan Dharma. That is the beauty of Vedic culture. That it doesn't identify people on the bodily platform. These are all bodily platform. You are American, you are European, I am Indian, you are this, you are that, South African, this and that. That doesn't apply for the transcendental knowledge, Vedic knowledge. It is for everyone.
Universal.
It is universal. Yeah. That is what is Sanatan Dharma. It is a eternal Dharma. There are so many religions which came later, but Sanatan Dharma that's why it is called as Sanatan Dharma, because it is eternal Dharma. So that's beauty. That's beauty.
And for some viewers, maybe what is Dharma? What is Sanatan Dharma and what is Dharma?
What is?
Can you explain Dharma? What is Dharma and what is Sanatan Dharma?
Okay, so Dharma means occupation, right? Dharma, if you understand the term, means occupation. Sanatan means, if you say the word, is eternal. So eternal occupation. Of whom? Of all of us. What is the eternal occupation of a living entity? The eternal occupation of a living entity is to worship God.
It says to serve, like
to serve the God.
To serve, yeah.
So that occupation of living entity, which cannot be separated from him in any given circumstances. You put him in any circumstances, in all the circumstances, he will that Sanatan Dharma will remain with him. He might be in any species of life. A living entity transmigrates from one species to another. So, this transmigration goes on. But in all the species of life, that Dharma still remains with him. That Sanatan Dharma still remains with him. It doesn't leave him. It is not that if he goes in a species of an animal, or if he's in a tiger species, or in a lion species, or a python species, so his Dharma changes. No. Sanatan Dharma never changes. Sanatan Dharma remains the same for all of them, in all the conditions, in all the situations.
But if you have no human body, how can you perform, or how do you practice Sanatan Dharma?
Yes, that's why when we get a human form of life, it is a very precious thing.
Yeah.
So utilizing that properly is very, very important. That's why in our Vedic, in scriptures it is said that if a soul, before he gets this human form of life, he has to go through 84 lakh species, and it takes him 1.25 crore years. Before you and me got this human form of life, I'm not talking about the others, but at least you and me. before we came into this,
Yeah.
so we have gone through this 84 lakh species, and it took us 1.25 crore years. Definitely, once you get human form of life, you get number of chances. I just said that one gets 7 chances to perfect one's
Just for
existence.
the record, legs means 100,000
Huh?
legs.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
some viewers don't know legs and crows. It's
Okay. So yeah, so that is the thing, that human life is very, very precious. So that's why we should know that what is our eternal occupation. Then is to serve God. And if you don't serve God, then we are all we are living like cats and dogs. And we can call ourselves a human being if we are uh, you know you're living like a human being. If you're living like an animal, you're an animal. If you're living like a human being, you're a human being. Yes.
we're doing so much effort to survive and to maintain and to enjoy. And when you look at the animals, it's so simple for them. And
Actually, they and we are we are doing the same thing.
yeah,
No difference. The only difference is when we are serving the God. That is the difference, because the sense gratification is available in the every species and every situation. If the happiness and distress, they come, and they're natural, they come on its own accord. So we got this body, and that's why we should know that there is a huge amount of difference between the human species and the animal species. Enjoyment is available to them also, to us also, and the pleasure which we get from sex enjoyment or any other pleasure, what animals they get the pleasure, and what we get the pleasure is the same.
same, yeah.
It's the same pleasure. So
And same suffering.
same suffering, same pleasure. The distress is the same, the pleasure is the same, and we don't have to aspire for it, or aspire for it. It comes naturally. The happiness and distress, they are natural. It will come as we are destined. We are going to get suffering, we are going to get happiness. So that is not what the human form of life is meant for. Human form of life is meant for something more. What is that something more? The something more is to know God and achieve Him. Not just to know God. Knowing God is just not enough. Practicing God consciousness in life is very, very important. And then being a submissive, devoted follower of the Supreme Lord, then gradually once transformation comes and once attain the perfection. Now, what is the perfection? Perfection is attaining the holy abode of the Lord. Janma karma chame divyam eyam yati tattva tattva deham punarajanma naiti mamiti swarjana. So going, attaining to that divine abode of the Vaikuntha Loka. That's the goal of our life.
And I just realized we talked about Vyasadeva, and then I asked another question. But back to Vyasadeva, because he was bewildered after he compiled all the Vedas and everything. But it was already speaking about the Lord, so why he was not satisfied?
Because when he wrote Mahabharata, so in Mahabharata, except for the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, if you see the whole of the Mahabharata, there are so many other things as well in that. And there is a purpose. There is a purpose of writing a book. There is a, when we write a book, so there is a purpose. I'm also an author. I have written 4 books.
Oh yeah.
And when I write a book, there is a purpose to it. So similarly, when Vedavyas also wrote Mahabharata, he had a purpose, and purpose was to benefit the people in general who are less intelligent, to help them understand what is dharma, what is sense gratification, what is a religious development, and at the same time salvation also. Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. To understand dharma, to understand economic development, so everything is there in that. So, but he got chastised by spiritual master Narad Muni, because he did not write a scripture which exclusively talks about devotional service. Because all these things, all this knowledge is fine, but the soul is not going to get benefited from just simply understanding about dharma, artha, and kama, and moksha. He needs to understand about the pancham purushartha, which is the 5th purushartha, which is how to attain the God. And that's why we have Shrimad Bhagavatam. And Shrimad Bhagavatam exclusively talks about pure devotional service. It doesn't talk about anything else. So that's why it is said Shrimad Bhagavatam is for the Paramhamsas. If you want to aspire to become Paramhamsas What is Paramahamsa is becoming a very, very advanced and pure devotee of the Lord. So that stage, if one wants to attain, that is a Paramahamsa stage. You have to take shelter of Bhagavatam.
And I hear, I mean, when I was a monk, then I distributed Shrimad Bhagavatams on the street, and then many people I meet, and then they say, yeah, how can this be true? And you're talking about like the creator god Brahma with four heads and Lord Shiva, and this is all like fantasy, and the gods, and how would you explain it? Like, how could you make someone...
So what else explanation they have?
Yeah. It's also same, like...
If we are saying that this world is created like this, and here's the explanation, it is from the scripture. It's not that you and me sit down together and we are compiling a book like that. No, it is from the Vedic scripture. It is coming from the authentic sources from the acharyas in the Bharatvarsha. And they are saying that. So we are just simply following. If this is not the explanation, where in the world is the explanation about how the universe is created? There is no explanation. See, though there is no explanation, there is somebody is giving the explanation, and it is authentic, coming from an authorized source. Why not accept it?
And it's not just that it's like we read it and it sounds good and we believe something, but it's like a process. We're experiencing it.
People say that, people talk about America, people talk about people talk about going to, people talk about Europe, people talk about Eiffel Tower, there's so many things that people talk about. But if I say, I don't believe, that there is something called as Europe. If I'm in India and I'm saying, I don't believe that there is a country, there is European nations. I don't believe. They say, no, it exists. But where is the proof? No, it exists. So, but I'm here. I'm coming and I'm saying, oh, yes, everything is there. So I'm witnessing that. So similarly, the Vedic scriptures, to understand the God, to understand the creation, especially to understand the God, who can, where is the proof of the God's existence? So the proof is with the mother, and scriptures are like our mother. So she tells us who is our father. She tells us how the world was created and everything. So we have to have faith in the scriptures, and there is no other literature in the world which gives such detailed explanation. And all the research and everything which are now happening, for example, about what happens in the womb of a mother for a child, there are so many research and lakhs of money, crores of dollars have been spent just to figure out what's happening in the womb. But in the scripture, in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in Kapila's teachings to Devhuti, everything is given in topmost detail. But the scientists, they don't want to understand that, study that, but they want to invest money. It is a money-making business.
Sure.
That they want to invest lakhs and lakhs of things, but ultimately, what is the conclusion? The conclusion is same what is there in the scriptures. Just follow that.
Yeah, my personal experience was, I studied Bhagavad Gita, then I became a monk, and I could experience there's some truth, and my life changed, and then I could accept some parts, and then I thought like, okay, if this is true, then I can't say this is true and this is not true. So I had to accept the whole packet.
Yeah.
And for me, I never questioned the demigods and the devatas and Lord Brahma and Lord Krishna. It was always from the beginning, for me it was clear, but I hear many devotees or friends, they say, how can you accept it? It's all like, like Star Wars, science fiction. And people tell me, like you talk about Mahabharata, and in my podcast also I speak about like it was like 5,000 years ago, it just happened. But then they question scientifically, where's the proof? Like our history, says something else, and it's very difficult for me. I try to explain, but people don't want to listen, don't want to accept.
There are people who will accept. If they want to actually do the critical analysis of the world. So there are people who just want to go their way, but there are people who like to do a critical analysis of what is the whole world and what does the scriptures say and all. So such inquisitive people will definitely with the critical mindset as well. But they will, if they read the scriptures, they'll appreciate that. Now we see when I was in Mumbai, I never been to Vrindavan, but I heard about Vrindavan from Bhagavatam. I heard about Vrindavan, how Krishna performed pastime, this and that. So somebody told me this place exists. So I personally went there in Vrindavan. I visited all those places where Krishna performed the pastime, so that confirms that, So if in the book, if in the Shrimad Bhagavatam, there are so many things that have been explained about how the creation takes place, about how the sun and moon, everything changes, everything is mentioned, and we are practically seeing it, observing it. So why not to accept it? Why not to accept it? Things which we are reading, it's practically we are observing that.
Yeah.
So what is the problem in accepting?
Especially you mentioned the places. I also went to India and you visit these places and you can really feel it.
Yeah.
The mood is there and then, or when you read, I remember when I first time read 10th Canto Krishna book summary, and Krishna and Balaram, they were playing with the calves and the cows and they holding them on their tails and were dragging to the mud, and then Krishna sometimes when he didn't get the butter, he pinched, the children. And I had to laugh so much, I started to cry. I was so blissful. And I was like, wait a minute, how can I be so happy but just reading some random story? And then more and more, or read about the Pandavas, Yudhishthira, Arjuna, the qualities, the piety, and the personalities. And then it's like so captivating, it's like really like, you can feel they're real.
Yeah.
And also when you spoke now about the Bhagavatam, it's all of a sudden it's alive. It's like you're part of it,
Yes, Shrimad Bhagavatam is alive. Yeah, definitely. That book has a life. That book is very powerful. That book has a life. It's Krishna himself. Yes, very interesting. The world is very unusual, but Krishna also attracts those. It's in his hand, not in our hands, because he reserves the right to reveal himself. So we can only broadcast the glories in front of. That is the best way to simply perform kirtan, broadcasting glories of the Lord to the best of our capacity, and feed prasad to everyone, and definitely people will get benefited, and then they will come and get association of devotees like you, and will become devotees.
Like Prabhupada said recently, I think you mentioned or someone mentioned that we're not here to attract people, we're here to attract Krishna.
Yes, definitely. Our purpose is to attract Krishna, because their condition, this world has been there for time immemorial, and will continue to be there for time immemorial. So we are here, and we are here, so we need to first save ourselves. And in that process, if somebody comes naturally and we can help, we will help. But the first thing is to render pleasure to Supreme Lord, render pleasure to the devotees of the Lord, and also to encourage and inspire others to come closer to God, to Supreme Lord. That's our business actually. Life is very, very simple, not so complex.
I say simple for the simplest.
Simple for the simple, complex for the complex.
Complicated.
That's how the life is. What else?
Yeah, we started actually. I ask you that the Bhagavad Gita is translated in so many different, commentaries, and can be quite confusing. Also, I'm from the yoga society. I'm practicing pranayama and teaching, and many times I meet yogis, and then they say, "How can you claim this is Bhagavad Gita as it is?" Then they show me their Bhagavad Gita, and all of a sudden it sounds different. If I read it, then it's clear. But then you have Prabhupada's commentaries. You have his word for word translation, and then people claim or say that of course Prabhupada said this is as it is because he's a bhakti yogi. But for Jnani or for a yogi, mystical yogi, Ashtanga yogi, he would say, no, this is actually not the right translation. It's about impersonal liberation. And so what's the importance of the Bhagavatam that we can understand the Gita?
So Bhagavad Gita was spoken to Arjuna because he was his devotee. And he was his friend. So Bhagavad Gita is meant for people who are devotees. In one sense, you want to become a devotee of the Lord. So Bhagavad Gita has so many translations and so many interpretations that will always be there. People will have their opinion, but their opinion doesn't necessarily has to be Vedic opinion. It's your opinion or my opinion, doesn't have to be the Vedic opinion. So whatever is in the scriptures, should be accepted. Whatever the Lord wants from us should be known. And the best way is to to understand Bhagavad Gita. Now, people, they can't change the words of the Lord. What they can give is they can give their own interpretation to to Krishna's verses, to Lord Krishna's Bhagavad Gita's verses. But that doesn't solve the purpose. The purpose is very, very clear. The purpose is to to understand the teachings of the Lord and how to understand. So Bhagavad Gita as it is very clearly, crystal clearly explains about each word's meaning so that people who are reading those verses can connect with the shloka of the Bhagavad Gita. That's how transparently it has been presented. The transparency is there because shloka is there and there is a translation, but between the shloka and the translation, how have you translated, on what basis have you translated that shloka is very, very significant. Even though I might not be a Sanskrit scholar, but unless I know how you have interpreted the translation, so that is very, very significant for me. That's why in our Bhagavad Gita, as it is, Srila Prabhupada has given word to word meaning. And so that any layman also can relate the meaning of those verse with the original verse and try to connect with that verse and then try to understand the translation. And commentaries are definitely needed. Commentary is definitely needed because it has nothing to do with the Bhakti Yogi or Jnana Yogi. In the Bhagavad Gita, everything is mentioned. Jnana Yoga is mentioned and so many other things are mentioned, but the topmost is the Bhagavad Gita.
Because Prabhupada,
Topmost is the Bhakti Yoga is the topmost. Everything is mentioned. Even in Mahabharata, there are so many other things are mentioned. But in the finally, what Krishna says is Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Aham Tvam Sarva Papeva Moksha Shama. Surrender everything to me. Whatever I have told you, just give that all kinds of dharma and just surrender to me.
because you spoke about Sanatana Dharma, but then Krishna says, give up all the Dharma, but material Dharma.
Yeah, there is Nitya Dharma and there is Naimittika Dharma. You need to understand. People get confused. So Nitya Dharma means the Dharma for the soul and Naimittika Dharma means Dharma for the body. So they're different. Yeah? So this body means we think that I and mine concept. So I and mine means everything related to me and mine. And there are so many things related to us, and then we talk about all those different kinds of engagement in the material world. So that is called as Naimittika Dharma, temporary relationship. Because we don't know before we came in the womb of our mother, where were we in the last birth? And when we came here and now we are now married, we have children. So we don't know where the children are coming from. I mean, what was their past destination? So they are now just here. So we accept that as our children. But definitely in the past, but they might have been the children of someone else. So like that, this goes on, and then we actually die, and then we also go to the next destination. Our whole family goes to the next destination. So everything related to this whole concept is completely temporary. That its relationships are temporary. Its occupation duties are temporary. But what is permanent is that the Sanatana Dharma or the purpose of that human form of life, and doing that purpose, what is called a Jaiva Dharma. So Jaiva Dharma is Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is Jaiva Dharma.
The Dharma of the soul.
Dharma of the soul. And it's the same thing, same. And Bhagavad Dharma. So Bhagavad Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, Jaiva Dharma, Nitya Dharma, these are all same. This is just one, different names. So there are two kinds of dharmas, Nitya Dharma and Naimittika Dharma. General religious principles and transcendental religious principles. So when we are devotees, we come under the transcendental religious principles. That is Bhagavad Dharma's jurisdiction. Like Ajamil. Ajamil was a sinful person. So he unknowingly performed devotional service by chanting the names of Lord Narayana. He was addicted to prostitutes, he was into drinking, he was into meat eating, he was into everything. And Ajamil was, personified sin. That's how many sins he committed. But fortunately, he got an opportunity to have a son whose name was Narayana, and because of chanting the names of the son, Narayana, he got purified. His existence got purified, and then at the time of his death, the god of death sent his representatives. And because he chanted the name of Narayana, the god of, the Lord of Vaikuntha, the Supreme Lord Narayana sent his representatives. And then there was a conversation between them. And they explained, the Vishnu Dutas, they explained to Yamadutas and to Ajamil about the transcendental religious principles, about Bhagavad Dharma, that knowingly or unknowingly he has practiced Krishna consciousness. He has practiced his Jaiva Dharma, he has practiced Sanatana Dharma, and that's why he's going to get benefited. And Ajamil was freed from that situation. He went to Haridwar, performed devotional service, and attended Vaikuntha Loka.
So there's hope for me and for us.
For both of us. For both of us. Yes.
Wonderful. One point, I want to share a story, but also a question. Because Prabhupada sometimes translates yoga or Buddha yoga with bhakti. And then I was thinking, when I read more carefully the translations and the commentaries, and then sometimes I was confused when I read Vishwanath Chakravarti or other acharyas. And then later I hear the class from Maharaj, and he said, yeah, Prabhupada, he actually invented this term Krishna consciousness. Before he didn't use this term so much. And what I got convinced is, I met one person on the street. I gave him Shrimad Bhagavatam many years ago, 10 years ago. Then we visited this person, and he showed us his Bhagavad Gita from Paramahamsa Yogananda and Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And then he studied both, and he compared, and he was living very simple, had a mat on the floor. He lived like a monk, like, was really impressed. And he was really studying like a monk, you know. He was fulfilling his dharma. But he was confused, and he couldn't accept Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita in the beginning. And we visited him, and we cooked for him, and then he started reading Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto.
That cleared it.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he came to the temple. He associated with devotees. Now he's initiated. I forgot his name, from His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. And now after many years, when I see him, always I remember how everything started. But for him was the point was the Srimad Bhagavatam. Convinced him. He started with the first canto, and he came here, he bought the whole set, all 12 cantos.
Bhagavatam is the king.
And when
Srimad Bhagavatam, 3 things happen in the life of people when someone reads Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
First miracle it happens is all the doubts are cleared. Srimad Bhagavatam will clear all the doubts of a person who is practicing spirituality. If he has doubts, if he has questions, read Srimad Bhagavatam. All your doubts will be cleared.
That's true.
Second thing, what happens is, entanglement of the material world. We are so entangled, so much attached to this material world and its results and all those things, that we are entangled. Hriday Granthi, it is called as Hriday Granthi, entangled
Not
heart.
of the heart. Yeah.
Entangled heart. So that's my 4th book. We just released it 1 week back.
I use this phrase many times. It's an Hriday Granthi. I mentioned this phrase many times.
Now you should distribute entangled hearts. Hriday Granthi. So this
Hriday Granthi Bandhana, it's written in Bhagavatam somewhere.
The second thing happened is that Hriday Granthi is completely diminished. The karma is slackened. And third things what happen after taking shelter of Bhagavatam is one develops natural love of God. So 3 miracles of Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam has to be propagated, has to be, explained, should be distributed, should be read, and so many things. Bhagavatam can bring miracles in your life. The miracle which you are waiting for, everyone is looking for a miracle. So that miracle, Srimad Bhagavatam can bring in your life.
I remember myself when I got the Bhagavatam, first Bhagavad Gita, and was already convinced and practicing devotee. But then when the Bhagavatam came in my life, I had only the first and second canto and 6th and 7th. So I read the first, second, and 6th, 7th. And I remember the story of Brajsundar. But it was it changed my life. I came from my background and all kinds of nonsense and sinful activities. And it was really difficult to find a way out. But I got so much taste in hearing the Bhagavatam. And then you want to hear more, you want to associate more, you want to know more about the Lord.
Yes.
And now you gave this 1-week seminar. And I got so inspired, especially the story of Dhruva Maharaj. So yesterday I made a podcast on my other podcast about the life of Dhruva Maharaj. And I got so purified in the evening today. I went very early to bed to wake up at 3 o'clock that I can come here to Mangalarati, first time after a few months. And I can really see how it's purifying, and you get this desire and taste to do more, to hear more, to give more. And so it's really wonderful just to open somewhere and just go into it, Just let the miracle happen.
Yes, that's how the Supreme Lord is very, very powerful. He is so kind to us that he has given us the holy name. He has given us this. He's there in the form of the deities. He's in the form of the holy name himself. He's in the form of the Bhagavatam. He's in the form of devotees. So he's doing his best to help us. We just have to open our eyes and open up to the reality of the world. Understand what because the Lord has created the world, so He has given instruction manual. Any company which this device, for example, this company, when you brought this device, you definitely must have gone through a manual how to figure it out. So similarly, the Lord has created the world, and for that the Lord has given a manual, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And you want to use the device. For example, if you're bringing this device, you don't want to use it. I mean, you're not using the manual, but you want to use the device. And how will you know in the first, how will you know? It's very difficult. What are the settings, this and that. There are so many minute things. So best is that you read the manual and things will become easy for you. Or go to the representative of this company and he will explain you, give you a demo, right? The same when Krishna has given Bhagavad Gita to you, open and read. And because this is the manual for all of us. But we want to live in this material world without reading the manual. And we want to use the world without understanding from the devotees how they are using the world. If somebody is using the product, they will give you the review. How is the product like? So, but we are very, very independent. We have an independent mindset. So we need to read the product, go to the devotees, understand from them how they are living in the world and practicing Krishna consciousness, what transformation are they having in their life. So come and associate with the devotees. Come and associate with Prabhu.
Or with you.
I'm going.
Yeah, but I wanted to mention, I have one more question to end the session with, and also wanted to mention you have a YouTube channel and Instagram. So I will link your channel in the description section, and maybe also Bhagavad Mahavidyalaya if someone wants to go deeper in understanding the Bhagavad philosophy.
There are so many self-paced courses on our European Bhagavad Mahavidyalaya website, ibmveu.org, and there are so many self-paced courses, and more are coming. You can expect around 100 courses coming very soon. And you can, at your own time, at your own pace, you can take the recordings of the courses, give the exams, appear for exam, get the certificate. So everything is automated. So take advantage of this.
Yeah.
And let's take a vow to ourselves follow God consciousness and also to inspire others to come closer to the God. That is the best way. What is the best friendship as a friend? What you can do is this, that bring him closer to the God, and you'll render a selfless service for him or her, and there is nothing better than that. Your relationship, your bonding will be so nice. And so we need to understand that what can better our relationship with our spouse or with our friends, with our girlfriend or boyfriend. What can better our relationship with them? So the relationship can be better if God is in the center of our lives. Usually what happens, the God is not in center. So either you are in center or he is in center or she is in center. So everything revolves around that, and that leads to, because that's so dry after some time, that leads to frustration, irritation, fights, chaotic situations, arguments. But if God is in the center of both of your lives, both are serving the God, then both of your life will transform, and it will be a different experience for each one of them.
There's this triangle example.
Yes.
That Krishna is on the top and man and woman or friends are so far away.
Yes.
But if they go closer to God, they also will be together.
Yes.
So it's so simple.
Simple example. Simple example. So bring God in the center. And come to Simachalam. Come to Simachalam. Lord Narasimha is waiting for you. There are so many wonderful devotees waiting for you to take care of you. So join the Hare Krishnas.
I wanted to ask you, what can you give the audience? But now you already gave them like some idea what to do. I always ask my guests, what is your favorite verse in Bhagavad Gita? And maybe you can say something to some guidance for the audience, but you already did. So maybe you can just mention.
Janma Karma Chame Divyam is my favorite verse from the Bhagavad Gita.
Can you explain the verse you did before in the beginning? But
Janma Karma Chame Divyam means Krishna is saying to Arjuna, my birth and my activities are transcendental. They are not like ordinary people. Ayam yo veti tattvataha. So try to understand this. And understanding this aspect, there is nothing is left to understand more. And by doing this, tattva deham punarjanma. What by doing this, by understanding and realizing God. Just knowing God is not sufficient. Knowing about God and then realizing Him is also important. Knowing God is one thing. So when Krishna says Janma Karma Chame Divyam, try to understand understand me, and you will not take birth in this material world. That doesn't mean just knowing Him, but actually realizing it also. So knowing and realizing is two different things. But both are important. Knowing is also important, at the same time realizing it also, and then the life is sublime, life is happy. So that's it. So that's the thing, that we will not take birth. Who wants to come in this nasty material world? Stay in the womb of the mother upside down. And who wants to come in that nasty material world and nasty womb, the place where all the stool, pus, this and this are there? Who wants to come in that small place, and who wants to live in this material world where life is full of problems and anxieties, troubles, wars, this and that? You never know. Now we are just hearing that there are floods around us.
Floods, yeah.
You never know when
yesterday was a car crash, 24 cars on the highway, but on both sides, different directions. On the same spot, something happened and they all crashed, 24 cars.
So you want to live in this material world? Welcome. If you don't want to live in the material world, then come to Simachalam and meet Prabhuji, and he will guide you. So yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you.
It was my pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, it was my honor. When I saw you, I said, oh my God, Brajsundar Prabhu is here. I need to take the opportunity and ask him. Maybe he can share his wisdom and knowledge. And
thank you so much.
I hope we can meet again. And
definitely.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Very fine.